Hello and welcome back to Shelf Center. This is Bryce. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing. If this is something you end up enjoying, it could happen. Who knows? Anyway, I'm at a new location. I know I've been kind of switching back and forth. This is my home and my bookshelves that actually look semi-decent, at least compared to my crappy bookshelves bookshelf in most of my videos. Anyway, I wanted to do a mid-year update, kind of a modified mid-year freakout tag a little bit, and just kind of look at the status of my TBR for the year, because I love doing kind of a TBR for the year at the beginning of the year or the end of the last year to kind of get an idea of just, well, to focus my mood reading self, first of all. That's the first important part. Otherwise, I will find anything that's shiny and new and just grab it and start reading instead of focusing on the series. And I'm in the middle of a lot of series, and that's one of my goals, is trying to finish up a number of them. So without further ado, and I'm trying some new editing, going to try to splice in some other stuff that I filmed. We're gonna see how this goes. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to learn here, okay? So anyway, please be patient with my bad editing. So jumping right into it, I'm looking at my TBR for the year. I've got 44 books on the TBR for the year. I set a goal with Goodreads for 55 books. So, kind of the vast majority of my books, and I've already gotten myself quite a bit sidetracked, derailed, whatever you want to call it, especially with just jumping onto a readathon, jumping onto a reading group for the Stormlight Archive or Cosmere Malazan one, all kinds of things. So I've been, this is what I tend to do, but I do like to have a little bit of a focus, so this gets me a little bit of accountability. I like to have that, again, to try to be finishing books that I started or finishing series that I started. Of those 44 books, I have read 15, which frankly I'm not too sad about. So which means if you're doing the math here, we've got 29 to go. So I've got a lot on the list to go. But anyway, let's focus first of all on what I've read so far this year of my TBR for the year. First off, I kind of have like one TBR going and one kind of set of series that I committed last year. It was 10 series that I just wanted to finish, that I'm like in the middle of. And so first things first, I'm going with just my most recent, really one of the most recent, Calamity. I read the final book in the Reckoner series by Brandon Sanderson. It was a really good ending. I thought he really handled that well. It's a fun series. It's not Stormlight Archive or Mistborn level. But it's a good, fun, solid series, and I think that's everything it's meant to be. So that was really good. Speaking of Brandon Sanderson, I did read Mistborn this year. That has just kind of been on my list just because of the fact that, it's like I'm a booktuber who reads fantasy books, Brandon Sanderson being one of them, and I still hadn't read Mistborn yet, and that was on my list last year, so it continued. We actually read it. It's a miracle. Speaking of Brandon Sanderson again, Edge Dancer was another one, that novella in the Stormlight Archive. I have been joking on videos throughout this year so far that I am doing a year of Sanderson reading, but not the actual books that are the year of Sanderson, which are the secret projects. You don't ask me why. It just fell this way. I'm in the middle of too many things, and I committed to more things. That's how I roll. I just have to live with it. And the fact that I'm still staying somewhat committed is pretty good. Anyway, then finished The Fellowship of the Ring. That was kind of on my list to just kind of be like, yeah, I was most of the way through anyway. Finished it with the kids. They loved it. It was so much fun. The kids wanted to talk theories and who are the eyes glinting in the background there? Oh, is it Gollum? Anyway, they were so good at guessing. I was like, you guys shouldn't be this good. I was not that good when I was reading it. So anyway, it was just really fun. And now the problem that I'm having is getting them into the Two Towers, which is my favorite of the trilogy, because this is one of those book dad backfires for me, is that I finally got them to a point where they're enjoying Lord of the Rings. This is all I've been waiting for. don't want to push it too hard because they would have hated it had I pushed it too hard. So I had it read in the right time period and they loved it. But now they have their own TBRs. What am I supposed to do with that? So now they have their own TBRs and they've got a stack of books and they're like already feeling stressed about it. So I've caused problems. I've caused emotional damage, I'm sure, that they'll never recover from, because I will never recover from this, because I've missed out on so many books and who knows how many I'm going to be able to finish even in my lifetime. Okay, let's not go down that road. Anyway, then I had 2 books on the Cradle series, 3 books. 3 books in the Cradle series on my list, and it was Reaper, Dread God, and Waybound. Waybound was another just pretty recent finish. So we did it. We got the 3 Cradle books, and I finished a series. It's a miracle. And again, this is where I'm so slow that my son, who's already read through the whole of Cradle, read through it again just to be able to talk Waybound with me while I was reading it, and he still finished it before me. So, man, I missed out on a lot of reading growing up, but I'm so glad I get to fulfill all of my dreams through my son and my kids. I'm sure the rest of them will be there too. All right, then we've been doing kind of a bit of a Malazan read-along. As Malazan read-alongs go, this one has failed a little bit. We still got Kay involved in it. Of course I'm involved because I've only read the series twice and I needed a 3rd time. And so, but I have read Gardens of the Moon, Dead House Gates, Memories of Ice, House of Chains. That's where we got up to before it all kind of fell apart. And I get it. House of Chains is actually my least favorite in the series, maybe, except for maybe Reaper's Gale. But reading it again, I loved it. Absolutely. It's so good. It's my favorite series for a reason, though, because the worst in it is still better than most. But we made that, and that's kind of one of those we'll get to where I'm going to kind of modify the rest of the end of the year TBR. It's not the most important TBR to have Malazan on it that I've already read, though, either. So then I read The Bloody Chorus by John Marco. I knew that was coming out, and it did. It was excellent, independently published. Love that John Marco's back in the game, and I hope he continues, or I hope he does whatever makes him happy, because that's really what's important. I put More Than a Gunslinger on this. J.R. Carroll, I'd received an audiobook from him. Man, it was really fun, really cool, like kind of using historical characters, but with like kind of vampires and immortal things, and it was really a fun look, and the narrator of it was so good, just perfect. So anyway, had a really good blast with that. And then the final self-published book that I read so far this year that was on my TBR, because I read some others that were not, because I can't help myself, and it was The Iron Crown by L.L. McRae, and that was really a fun one. Absolutely good times there. And then again on my series that I'm trying to finish here this year, my 10 series, so this is number 2 that I've finished this year. Of the 10, and I finished a couple last year too by the end of the year. But anyway, this would be Jade Legacy, the 3rd book in the Greenbone Saga. Fonda Lee is on my absolute must buy immediately books. Whenever she comes out with a new book, she's on my list. I'm buying it. So for the rest of the year, we're looking at, that technically makes 29 books left over, but I am kind of modifying it. I don't see us in my read-along with Kay and the Malazan Book of the Fallen readathon, which may involve the other people. We'll see. May or may not. I'm going to take off really most of those, so really I'm guessing we might get to 2 by the end of the year. I think that's pretty conservative, 1 per quarter here. And so anyway, that really leaves 25 books to read by the end of the year. What are those books? So if we're talking the Malazan books, we're talking Midnight Tides and the Bone Hunters. So again, we'll see if we even get to that. And then, so I'm going to skip probably the rest of those. Then I've got The Last Command. That was another one. And the Timothy's on Thrawn trilogy. Man, that's hard. Timothy's on Thrawn trilogy. I've got the last book to go. I've got it. It's raring to go. Got it on audiobook, so we're already ready. I just need to go read that. I do have The Sacred Band by David Anthony Durham. Would like to finish that series soon, but it may take a reread of The Other Lands, which is the book just right preceding that one. Then I've been meaning to read Peter F. Hamilton. That has been on my list. I've read the first book in the, what is it called? The Reality Dysfunction. And I didn't love it. And so, but I promised, I know how people esteem Peter F. Hamilton very much, and so I would like to enjoy him. So I'm giving him another shot. This is a standalone, and I'm hoping that I will enjoy it. So speaking of science fiction, we've got Use of Weapons. I wanted to keep going on my Ian M. Banks. I've been having a great time with the Culture series. Read 2, this is the 3rd one, and some say the best one. I really loved, I think so far, Player of Games was my favorite. I liked Consider Phlebas too, and I am excited to enjoy Use of Weapons. Then we've got Absolution Gap. This is the 3rd book in Alistair Reynolds' Revelation Space Universe. This is again one of those that I'm trying to finish the series, so I would like to get to that by the end of the year, very much so. Then I've got Children of Dune. I read Dune Messiah finally. I had read Dune, 15 years ago or something. Loved it, never kept going, heard that it wasn't worth continuing on, but then now I've heard more that it's more like, yeah, maybe drop out like the last book, but the rest is pretty good. Anyway, we'll see. I'm gonna be the judge of it because I wanna read them all. Anyway, Children of Dune is next up. I heard this one's good. I didn't quite love Dune Messiah, but it wasn't terrible either. And I've got So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. This is a classic older copy that I picked up, and I love it. I have also a mass market paperback that is much more beaten up. Totally not from me, even though I've been taking it around everywhere and not quite getting to it. Then speaking of Malazan, we've got a sale. I would like to finish the Malazan Empire by the end of the year. That is one that it's taken me a while. I have this weird thing where I'm like, if I'm loving a series as much as especially I'm loving this one, I tend to want to wait until life is just this perfect time period where I can just sit down and enjoy it. And somehow that time has like never happened, and I constantly have to go, all right, you got to fit it in when you can, and just do that. That's all. So I'm learning and I'm growing as a person, and one day I will finish that, and it's going to be this year. It has to be. It was supposed to be last year and it didn't happen. Then I've got Cibola Burn by James S.A. Corey, which is Ty Frank and Daniel Abraham. The Expanse, number 4. Again, been on my list. Need to keep going. Loved Abaddon's Gate. I had kind of a rough time getting into it. I had a false start. It was a library copy, so I had to return it. And anyway, I'm gonna try again, and I think I'm gonna do better this time. And I've got Necessary Evil. That is another one on my list of 10 series to finish up. This has been a really great one by Ian Tregillis. Tregillis is one of those, New Mexico, Santa Fe, George R. Martin, like cabal of authors. Anyway, I've had a lot of good fun and interesting times with Ian Tregillis' writing, so I'm excited to finish that one up. Then I got to get my Pratchett in for the year, and so I skipped a little bit ahead. I did Pyramids to read with Treebeard, who's just such a great Discworld fan and booktuber, frankly, and definitely go check out his channel. But Weird Sisters, I got to get on that one already. Would like to read that. Then I got The Torch That Ignites the Stars. This is the 3rd book in Andrew Rowe's Arcane Ascension series. If you've heard of Sufficiently Advanced Magic, this is one of those. It's a Cradle-esque, Cradle-like series that, like a dungeon crawler in certain respects, like a progression fantasy type that, you know, you're moving up in your skill level, essentially collecting improvement points. Not really, but you know, kind of. Then we've got Peril's Gate, Janny Wirtz. Again, everything keeps interrupting my time getting back into Wars of Light and Shadow. This is such a good series. I love it so much. And again, I keep doing the same thing I'm doing with Malazan. you can tell these are my like just absolutely top books where I'm just like, if only that moment will come by where I just have a week of doing nothing, and it will never happen for some reason. Then trying to get back in with the Stormlight Archive. This is where I did take a little bit of a break to do Mistborn. Part of it is because I understand that's important for enjoying this series, and I don't want to spoil too much because I don't really know what I'm spoiling, frankly, but I don't want to spoil for anyone. But anyway, knowing the Cosmere and how it kind of interweaves, I want to enjoy all parts and all facets of it. So I'm going to listen to my elders, and even though I'm probably way older than them, and actually read them in the right way that will help me enjoy all of them to the maximum satisfaction level. Then this one shouldn't be too hard, but just continuing my One Piece journey, really loving it. So they're just so much fun. They're just so creative, they're so nuts, and I've never not had some fun with it. Right, then I wanted to read the White Sand Omnibus. This is this beauty right here. Wanted to get, again, this is more Cosmere. It's the graphic novel, so I'm excited to read that. I've heard mixed reviews though, but I'm going into it optimistically, so I'm excited for that one. And then finally on my list is the actual Year of Sanderson. We'll see if I get to it with everything I've committed to, but it's the actual secret project. So far, Trust of the Emerald Sea, the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. Then we've got Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and so and then the Secret Project #4, which I think is already given a title, but I just don't have it on my Goodreads printout. So anyway, that is what I'm looking at for the rest of the year. I did do a top 10 list with my top books of the year so far. I did do a top 5 list of my top self-published books of the year so far. What did win? So my favorite book of the year so far was in fact Mistborn. It was just so good, but it had some really tough competition, frankly. Then for my self-published top 2, actually, because they both tied for #1, was The Bloody Chorus and Reaper. And so I mentioned both of those. Those were both on my list that I've already talked about. Biggest disappointment of the year, probably the graphic novel Batman Year One. I think I enjoyed it, but at the like, if you're going disappointment level, like I was expecting way up here, and it was really good, but still didn't quite meet my expectations. Part of that is just because it's so short, and it's like, that's it. So I wanted more to that. I wanted a full Batman Begins type, I think, or something like that. But anyway, it got close, but it's still, if you're talking biggest disappointment, that's probably going to be it. Biggest surprise will probably be, and this has nothing to do with any of my lists so far, Wistful Ascending and Dark Theory. Those were books, Wistful Ascending by J.C.M. Byrne, and then Dark Theory by Wick Welker. Those have been ones that, I don't really know what to expect, other than I heard other booktubers enjoyed them. But the levels that I enjoyed them to was definitely unexpected. So big surprise to me, and I absolutely cannot recommend both of those enough. New favorite author was another one that I want to talk about. Ken Liu, I think. The Grace of Kings was so good. It was so well done. I'm so excited to read the sequel, the follow-up, and the rest of the series, because that one just had so much going for it. And I liked the characterization of kind of the two main characters, but then the kind of history, the setting, the milieu, as one might call it. It's really good, and then a very complex, intricate plot that I definitely was not able to see where it was going, because it was kind of all over, and I did not predict any of those twists and turns. So anyway, cannot recommend those enough. And anyway, that's my update for the year so far. I got a lot ahead of me. I mean, I'm still gonna probably continue with like the Mistborn series, so that's gonna get in the way of some of these. We'll see where I end up. But the thing is, I heard from a very wise person, and I like this, is that if you're meeting 80% of your goals, then you're doing a good job, because you're doing a good job setting the goal that's making you stretch, and that you're still meeting the vast majority of it. Can't even get to 80%? Let's hope. I've modified it at least a little bit, so there's still hope for me. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for liking and subscribing, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.